The British people have voted to leave the European Union, and their will must be respected.
The Leave camp wins the referendum in the UK with a 52 to 48% split. World stocks head for slumps and the pound sterling at a 3-decade low. And the Now Tau Kok fire now in its 4th day after claiming the lives of 2 firefighters.
Good evening. Britain has voted to leave the European Union after a bitterly fought referendum campaign. The result has ended the political career of Prime Minister David Cameron, sent global markets into turmoil, and it jeopardizes the stability of a project designed to promote peace and prosperity in Europe. As Tony Sabine reports, many are uncertain what the future holds for the EU and Britain post-Brexit.
When it became clear that the margin of victory for the Leave campaign in Sunderland was larger than expected, things began to look ominous for the Remain camp. Indeed, the pound dropped sharply after the first significant result on the night. From then on, it was a steady march to the eventual outcome, a Brexit from the European Union. Yeah! Despite a solid show of support for the EU in Scotland, Northern Ireland, London and Birmingham, it wasn't enough to offset the numbers garnered by the Leave camp in many English counties and much of Wales. In the end, the national result was 52% in favour of leaving the EU, as opposed to 48% of those who wanted the UK to stay. The result sent shockwaves around Britain, Europe and the world. The first major political casualty of Brexit was British Prime Minister David Cameron. He had gambled, some say recklessly, on scoring a decisive victory in the referendum and laying to rest the Eurosceptics once and for all. But instead, the man who led the UK out of the Great Recession will forever be known as the Prime Minister who bungled his country out of Europe, his political career in tatters.
The British people have made a very clear decision to take a different path. And as such, I think the country requires fresh leadership to take it in this direction. But in my view, we should aim to have a new Prime Minister in place by the start of the Conservative Party conference in October.
As Europe woke up to a future without Britain, the head of the EU tried to put on a brave face.
I am fully aware of how serious or even dramatic this moment is politically, but I always remember what my father used to tell me: what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Former London Mayor Boris Johnson looks to be a leading contender to be the next Prime Minister. Another person who gains political capital from Brexit is Nigel Farage, whose UK Independence Party has risen steadily from the margins into the British mainstream. He heralded a new dawn, using some of the populist rhetoric which helped the Leave campaign to victory.
It's a victory for ordinary people, decent people. It's a victory against the big merchant banks, against the big businesses and against big politics.
But a vote to leave the EU could very well turn out to be a vote against the United Kingdom. The Brexiters were seen as English nationalists, while sophisticated city dwellers, Northern Ireland and Scotland wanted to remain. The outcome of this historic vote was as much a reaction against the forces of globalisation as it was a reflection of a particular British antipathy to the Eurocrats of Brussels and a growing hostility to immigration.
I just really hope that things change on immigration.
But rejecting immigration and turning its back on Europe ignores the global nature of Britain's interests. The question now is, can the UK successfully negotiate and mould a new place in the world, or will regret sink in? Tony Sabine, TVB News.
World financial markets were rocked by the British vote. Stock markets tumbled and the pound sterling fell to its lowest level in 3 decades. The Brexit vote sparked massive sell-offs in Asian and European shares today. The Nikkei index in Japan was hit hard, plunging almost 8%. Here in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index shed 2.9% to finish at 20,259. Shares in Europe are mostly down as well. Meanwhile, the British currency fell by about 10% before recovering. Government bond yields also slumped to a record low. The Bank of England says it would take all necessary steps to shore up the British economy and the financial markets.
As a backstop and to support the functioning of markets, the Bank of England stands ready to provide more than £250 billion of additional funds through its normal market operations. The Bank of England is also able to provide substantial liquidity in foreign currency if required.
The impact of the referendum is far-reaching. Diana Lynn has been talking to the people of London on how they feel about the vote.
It's devastating for me. It's a new environment we have to fit ourselves into now. You know, there's a lot of unknown.
I've been here since '73, and that was ever since I come here. We are in Europe. You suddenly actually find out you're no longer part of Europe, and that means England is a small country. They can't actually just negotiate with every other country to actually restart the whole process. Take years to do it.
Tax will definitely rise, you see, because otherwise you can't run the country. So because if there are more people having being unemployed, so they will rely on the subsidies from the government. They will put burden to the treasury.
Yes, I vote to leave.
EU makes Britain more expensive, is that what you say?
More expensive and
more immigrants?
More immigrants.
Analysts say Britain will now have to endure long and arduous renegotiations with amendments to treaties and laws to exit the European Union. And more immediately, on the domestic front, a change of government. Diana Lynn, TVB News, London.
And here in Hong Kong, concerns abound for those in the export industry over Brexit. Diane To has that story.
The city's de facto central bank today sought to calm nerves, noting the Hong Kong dollar exchange and interest rates have remained stable.
The Hong Kong banking system is highly liquid, and our financial system is robust and resilient and is able to withstand possible market shocks from different sources.
In the last few weeks, our financial regulators have been preparing for the possibility of Brexit and have conducted stringent stress tests. They have also reminded our financial institutions the importance of prudent risk management.
But local companies that do business with the EU are bracing for headaches. Chinese Manufacturers Association President Eddie Lee says the EU takes up about 20% of the export business of his company that sells clocks and watches. Of that, the UK takes up about 5%. Lee expects currency fluctuations and worries that many orders will now end up losing him money. With a retail outlet in the UK, he's also concerned about the uncertainties surrounding import and export taxes between the UK and EU. Baptist University business academic Billy Mack says exports to the EU will certainly be affected. Pointing out that local exports have already seen a slowdown, he says things are not looking up. But he says how much impact Brexit will really have here will depend on how British and European central banks handle currency fluctuations. Diane To, TVB News.
To other news now, the deadly blaze at a Nau Tau Kok storage facility has been burning now for more than 80 hours. Authorities say crews are making good progress and deny using wrong tactics. This after a second firefighter died last night while trying to fight the blaze. Winna Wong reports.
This morning, smoke could be seen billowing from the Amoy Can Industrial Center. Firefighters continue to spray water onto the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors of the building. In the afternoon, there seemed to be less smoke. A firefighter reported feeling unwell and had to take a break. As the deadly inferno blazes on in its 4th day, authorities are facing an increasing number of questions from the public. Above all, what led to the deaths of the firemen who sacrificed their lives trying to put out the blaze. The security chief defended the professional knowledge of the fire services commanders.
The fire service department is now and has always been assessing the situation, and with that information in mind, they use their professional knowledge to consider and decide and appropriate actions at that particular point in time.
The Disciplinary Forces Union also fought rumors about bad operational planning.
And I think by adjusting the firefighting tactics is a correct and responsible manner to do. They say that we are making a wrong decision in combating the fire. And they have given out some kind of imaginations, I can say, that does not come from the truth of the fireground.
He says they will continue to send men into the building to take on the fire. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying also spoke out today, urging people to have faith in the fire service's professional training. He was at the Kwun Tong Fire Station to pay respects to fallen firefighters Thomas Chung and Samuel Hui. Beijing's Liaison Office Director Jiang Xiaoming offered his condolences as well. This fire station, along with the Fire and Ambulance Services Academy, opened their doors so the public could pay tribute to the firemen. Firefighters are now appealing to renters of the storage units in the building to let authorities know if they have any electronics or other flammable items kept in the storage units so they can best plan their operation. Winna Wong, TVB News.
Smoke spewing from the scene of that fire forced 3 nearby schools to cancel classes today. Some residents of neighboring buildings also decided to leave their homes for the time being. Adam Shute reports.
Suffocating smoke and a pungent smell given off by burning materials have proven too much for some Ngau Tau Kok residents to bear. Mr. Chung, who lives near the Amoy Ken Industrial Center, has already spent the past 2 nights at his friend's place. He said even though he had closed all windows, the smell crept in. Those who remained had to wear a mask outdoors. An environmental concern group found the particulate matter 2.5 for PM 2.5 levels in the neighborhood as high as 20 times the World Health Organization's safety standard.
Especially for those who are more vulnerable, like the elderly or the children, who are more susceptible to certain respiratory diseases or heart diseases. Under such conditions, it would have a higher chance to trigger the happening of those diseases.
Leung urged the government to disclose real-time data of the pollutants and consider evacuation as an option. 2 primary schools and a kindergarten in the vicinity cancelled their classes today. At Jordan Valley St. Joseph's Catholic Primary School, students who went to school unaware of the class suspension stayed in the library. Principal Martin Chi said they will decide on Sunday whether to resume classes next Monday. Adam Xu, TVB News.
Lawmaker Leung Kwok-keung appeared in court today after he was charged by the ICAC with misconduct in public office. At the Eastern Magistracy, a request by the prosecution to transfer the case to the district court was approved, despite objections by the defense. The defense said the case is politically motivated and it will seek a permanent stay of the proceedings. Leung was granted bail. The next court hearing is set for July 8th. The League of Social Democrats legislator is accused of failing to declare or disclose a $250,000 payment from media tycoon Jimmy Lai in 2012. Still to come in the broadcast, attendants of Taiwan-based China Airlines go on strike, leading to flight cancellations. In the U.S., the Supreme Court blocks Obama's plan to spare millions of illegal immigrants from deportation. And a glass slide outside the 70th floor of an LA skyscraper.